Hi, everybody. This is Joseph Vogely of Stoegele Films. I am the co-writer, the director, and the creator of the new slasher sensation Specimen 6, which will be out on DVD this June 2020. And welcome to another episode of Stoegele Films Reviews, where we like to talk about things that inspire us as artists and filmmakers and the such and the like and all that stuff. And today I wanted to talk about this cool new movie that I watched called Luz or Luz. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it. It's on Shudder right now, so if you got Shudder, go out and check it out. It's also on a whole lot of other platforms, so I highly recommend people go out and they spend a couple bucks here or there renting a movie, because it's always good for the artists themselves if you go out and pay for your artwork that you like to view. Okay, so anyway, I'm talking about Luz. Without giving too much away, it is about a young woman that walks into a police station and there's possession involved. The film is just absolutely fascinating. It's directed by Tillman Singer, who, from what I could find, had only directed one other short film. I'm sure they directed other stuff, but things that you could find of that person. The other short film that he is well known for was the events at Mr. Yamamoto's Alpine Residence, which I also just watched. So I'll talk about that here in a second. So I will give you just the tiniest brief little. Actually, I already gave you the best sort of synopsis I can of the film, but what I can tell you about is that it is about possession. It's really one of those mind trippy sort of films. I think to speak too much of the film might actually give away too much, because there is a great deal of brilliance in this film. The way that it was shot on 16 millimeter, which you don't find too much these days, and so it has that grainy but really interesting visceral feel that you don't get in films that are shot in 4K and other higher clarities. I've always been a big fan of 16 millimeter or 35 millimeter. Some of the original formats of filmmaking. The film itself starts in this kind of a bar. You don't know what's going on. There's this guy sitting there, and there's a woman who starts talking to him, asking him, like, what sort of doctor are you? And he's not really responding. And she's able to get out of him that he's a psychotherapist, and then all of a sudden she starts kind of telling this story about her friend that she knew back in Catholic school. And as the story progresses, the two of them end up getting more and more drunk. The woman's doing cocaine, and they're both just getting all messed up, and then you really don't know what's going on. I think I have to watch the movie again because there's so much in this film. Again, it is a possession film. I don't want to give away too much again, but what else goes on in here? So a majority of it takes place in this police interrogation room, and after the point of the woman talking to the doctor, she convinces the doctor in a way to go to the police station and go help her friend who is there, and they're interrogating her friend, who they think has something to do with the disappearance of another woman. And is really fascinating. The doctor ends up putting her into a hypnosis of sorts, and the way that they shoot the film is there some way recreating the moments before the accident this woman gets into that leads her to this police station, and they have all these chairs set up. And she's a cab driver, so she's mimicking or miming that she's driving a cab and smoking a cigarette. And what the filmmaker does with the sound effects and the performances of the actors themselves, you're very much drawn right in there. You're like, oh, this is absolutely fascinating. You really believe that she's there, and then it does cut back and forth a little bit for when she is actually in the cab itself, and she ends up like relaying this story about her past at this Catholic school, and something bad happens there, or at least you're led to believe that, and there ends up being some supernatural elements that end up happening, some very frightening elements if you're not used to watching horror films, but they are fascinating nonetheless. I think it is a brilliant piece of art. So, keeping this short, I really want you to go either up it over at Shudder and check this film out, or just go rent it for, I think it's only $2 or $3, depending on what platform you get it at. So, another thing, so I wrote down a couple of notes that if you don't believe me, then please believe other places. So Rotten Tomatoes, it actually gives it an 86% fresh rating. That's actually really good for Rotten Tomatoes. That's kind of the sweet spot for a film, because you know that if a film like is like way, 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 way low, that generally means there's like a consensus of you know, I would like to say that like critics who like to shit on a film, whether it be good or not, and then because you can get a super low rating from the critics but a super high rating from the audience score, so you often know that a film might be very entertaining if it's like if it's like in the 20s, so like the critics are like all shitting all over it and the audience is loving it with 100%. I'm not going to mention any particular movies right now, but if you go onto that website you can kind of suss that out and you're like, well, I really like this movie, I wonder why the critics hate it so much, and then you look at what the audience score is and what their reviews are, and you're like, oh, I can see it's just kind of this weird cultural sort of thing where you can't always trust film critics. There are some very good film critics out there. One of my favorites is from Rotten Tomatoes. No, Ain't It Cool News from quite a while back. His name was Vern. He wrote one of my favorite books, which was called Seagology. It was all about the art and films of Steven Seagal, and that man really, it was one of the best books on film I've ever read. I highly recommend going out and watching that. So you really got to look out for particular reviewers that you trust and that you know their opinion, and then kind of stick with that reviewer. That's the way kind of I've been. One of my favorite reviewers of all time is James Agee, who wrote back in the 1930s, 40s, well 40s and 50s before he passed away. And if he didn't like a film, he just didn't talk about the film. He wouldn't crap all over it. One of the great films that he wrote several essays on it is Monsieur Verdel, which was written and directed by Charlie Chaplin. And I won't talk about that too much right here, other than it is about a man who goes around seducing and marrying older women for their money, and then it's for a very particular reason. But if you know Charlie Chaplin films, then you know that there is this political message behind it, and he gives this really beautiful performance. A little windbaggy at times when it comes to the exposition of why he's made the film. However, the point does get across. So, but this is not about Charlie Chaplin. This is about Luz, which is a very, very good film. So, it again is directed by Tillman Singer. It came out in 2018. It's on Shudder right now. Oh, and also the director's other film can be seen on YouTube. I don't want to give away too much because there's really not too much to give away because it's such a short film. It's called The Events at Mr. Yamamoto's Alpine Residency, which you can see on YouTube right now. It's an interesting film. Kind of wish there was a little bit more there, but you could tell it was more of an exercise in film making than really like trying to convey a particular plot or anything like that. So again, I want to say thank you to everyone out there who has joined us at Stoegele Films. Thank you again for our backers at Indiegogo. I'll be back here probably tomorrow with another review. I hope you all are doing great right now. It's hard times, but take care of each other and love each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye.